Thanks for taking the time to download the Inside the Jungle podcast. To send along your feedback about this show, send your emails to insidethejungle@spnt.tv.
Hey, what's happening, Bengals fans? After a week off, Inside the Jungle is back, the Wednesday night roundtable. We'll continue our position group series this week, breaking down the tight ends. Jermaine Gresham, will he stay or will he go? That's all coming up on the Wednesday night roundtable. And hey, a big announcement as well. Check it out.
This is the Wednesday night roundtable
with Nick Superling, Mickey Menzer, Anthony Cosenza, and Scott Bantel.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are around this beautiful world. It's the Wednesday Night Roundtable, part of the Inside the Jungle podcast, live here at cincyjungle.com every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. Glad you could join us. After a week off, we're back and better than ever as I welcome in my tag team partners tonight. Let's welcome in Mickey Menzer, fresh off a trip to the south where it was nice and warm, I take it. How you doing, Mick?
I'm doing good, man. Yeah, it was like it got 60 degrees, mid-60s one day. That was pretty awesome. And then you come back to Cincinnati, and now I think they said there's a possible wind chill of negative 25 or something dumb. So, yeah, pretty cool.
Well, we're glad you're back. We missed you the last couple of weeks. Ready to get your take on the tight ends and Jermaine Gresham. Let's welcome in the Bearcat fan himself on the night of the Crosstown Shootout, Scott Bantel. How you doing, Scott?
Good, Nick. Cats aren't looking too good. Talking about the weather, I am actually rocking out gloves in the basement today. It's so cold down here. I'll have you know that typing with gloves on is very difficult. So if I'm mistyping things in the chat room, I blame it on the gloves.
Oh, nice gloves. They look good. One man who doesn't have to worry about gloves, it's Anthony Cosenza. He's not joining us this week. We missed you, AC. Hopefully we'll catch back up with you next week here on the program. As I mentioned, we're going to talk about the tight ends. Let's start there because we do have a big announcement regarding the Inside the Jungle podcast a little bit later in the program. Let's start with tight ends, though. Jermaine Gresham is a free agent. We'll talk about will he stay or will he go here in 2015, but let's look back at how he performed here in 2014. 62 catches on 79 targets. He had 460 yards receiving, which is a little bit below his average. He had 5 touchdown catches this year. So, Mickey, I'll start with you. I know Jermaine Gresham's a big hot-button topic. He's probably the second biggest hot-button topic behind Andy Dalton amongst Bengals fans. So, your take on Jermaine Gresham here in 2014?
It's tough because in 2014 he kind of dropped off some of his production, and the thing that gets Gresham is, and we've talked about it a ton, the mistakes that he makes. But I think I'm in the camp that, for the most part, he makes up for a lot of those mistakes with different plays in the game. Jermaine Gresham without those mistakes is the guy that's a no-brainer, someone you want to have around. If he didn't become careless with the football at times and completed the plays, he puts up great numbers, and he's a gamer. It seems like there's a couple of times where the team has been just performing terribly, and Gresham's the one firing them up. I think the Thursday night Cleveland game was one of them, where he was one of the few players that actually, looked like was still giving an effort. But I think the price is going to be a little high for Gresham, and then it comes to do you pay that for a guy who may not necessarily be a favorite or reliable with the mistakes he does, and I'm on the fence, Nick. If you can improve at the position, then I say go for it. And there's some other huge tight ends, which is probably going to drive the price down for a guy like Gresham in the free agency market. So I don't know. I mean, if you can get him affordably, I'd take him back. I think it'd be that kind of thing where he'd appreciate it, and you just hope that his issues are mental and he can get it together, because he's a physical freak, and I'd love to see what he could do if he just cut back on the mistakes.
No Marvin Jones in 2014. Mohamed Sanu was subpar at receiver, and A.J. Green missed quite a bit of time as well, Scott. You take away a large amount of those outside threats. Also, keep in mind Tyler Eifert, not around the entire season. But you look at 2014 for Jermaine Gresham, and you would say what about his season?
Disappointing. I think you take a look. The 62 catches is nice. You take a look, and outside of A.J. Green and Mohamed Sanu, Gresham was their next as far as receptions goes. But then you take a look at yards, and you only got 460 yards, so 7.4 per catch. That was second lowest on the team to third lowest. Rex Burkhead and Kevin Brock were the only guys with lower average per catch. So, the 62 catches is nice, the 5 touchdowns is nice, but in a season where you were missing your number 2 guy and some other weapons, you look at a guy like Jermaine Gresham and look for him to step up. And, I didn't think he did that this year. I was kind of disappointed with him. And quite frankly, when I look at it, Gresham's had a decent career here, but when you look at what the expectations were for him when they drafted him in the first round, I think it'd be tough to say he's been anything but a disappointment. I think Mickey touched on the mental mistakes. I think between the mental mistakes and just his inability to really mature has made him one of the most frustrating Bengals that I can remember, at least of recent history.
He is definitely a frustrating Bengal, and I agree with you 100%, Scott. And you consider where he was drafted in the first round in that draft. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, guys, he was in the same draft as well as Rob Gronkowski. And you look at what he's been able to do with Tom. Now, he's got Tom Brady throwing him the football. I mean, that's a little different story. But it's also a little unfair because tight ends do a lot more than just catch the football. And it's hard to quantify, Mickey, what he's doing from a run-blocking standpoint. And that's not something that shows up in the stat line.
Right, and he's a solid run blocker, and I would argue, he is a freak, and the Bengals have failed to use our tight ends. I'll lump Eifert in there like we should have, like we hoped they would when we had them both. And to Scott's point, when he's catching the ball 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and he breaks a couple tackles, like he's doing his part, but we don't send Gresham up the seam. We don't, when you say he needs to step up like a number 2 receiver or fill that void, we didn't run the offense for him to do that. And I think with the 2 tight ends that the Bengals had on their roster, and it's unfortunate that Eifert got hurt, they had a huge mismatch. You mentioned Gronkowski, and no one's saying that Gresham is a Gronkowski type player, but Gronk is also a focus of that offense, and you can't say that Gresham is. He's an outlet, and he's often a last resort for Dalton. And I don't think the Bengals should use their tight ends like that. I mean, Gresham or Eifert up the seam, the few times we've seen it has been huge, and we just hate. We just fail to use them in the way that I think we should. And so that's one of the more frustrating parts. And we were kind of teased this year that Eifert was going to be a huge part of the offense, and then he gets hurt right away. I don't understand why then we totally shied away from the tight end position altogether. 62 catches is not bad, but when they're all just short passes for a guy that's that big and has been a red zone target in the past, I just think that we're not using him correctly.
62 catches, Scott, too shy of tying a career record for Gresham. And if I'm not mistaken, he is the career record holder for catches by a tight end in a season. So he's done some good things here in Cincinnati. Again, his numbers as far as a yardage standpoint were a little down this year, and I just wonder how much that had to do with the lack of weapons around him to open up the field. When you miss a guy like A.J. Green as much as they did, and as much as they missed Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu, I just wonder how much that hampered Gresham's productivity from a passing game standpoint this year.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could make the argument the other way, like you said, with the weapons missing, people were able to key in on Gresham a little bit more, so maybe he didn't have the opportunities that he's had in the previous years. But like Mick was saying, he's a mismatch, but he never has really been able to put it together to take advantage of it. I do agree with Mickey that the Bengals haven't completely used him the best. I think they could use him better. But when he's gotten the chances, I just don't see that he's taken advantage of them. And the bigger thing is the constant mental mistakes. You're not seeing much improvement as far as the holds, the offsides, the fumbles. I know he didn't lose any fumbles this year, but you continued to see the issue where he'd fumble, maybe he'd recover his own fumble. But oftentimes when he's fighting for those extra yards that he sometimes gets praised for, he's also losing control of the football. So I see him as an accident waiting to happen as far as fumbles go. So, he's a tough player. As much as fans don't like him, I think you are going to notice a difference if he's gone, especially if they don't replace him with another decent tight end. But I think it might be best for both parties for them to separate ways here with Gresham.
So let me pose this question to you, Scott. Can Tyler Eifert be an adequate replacement for Jermaine Gresham?
No. And the reason being is they're two different players. Like Mickey said, Jermaine Gresham, and you mentioned, is things you don't see on the stat sheet are his ability to block. He's certainly a better blocker than Tyler Eifert. Tyler Eifert's not going to be used as a blocker. So if they don't re-sign Gresham, then their number one priority as far as tight ends go needs to be getting a good blocking tight end. Kevin Brock is known as a good blocker, but he also contributes nothing from a passing standpoint. So they need to find a blocker that can at least catch the ball out of the back, when he gets off the line. So Tyler Eifert is not going to replace Gresham from a blocking standpoint. They're still going to have to do that either in free agency or the draft.
But from a receiving standpoint, Mickey, can Tyler Eifert be an adequate replacement for Jermaine Gresham, and are you expecting big things from him in 2015?
I think so, yeah. I think as much of a physical freak as Gresham is, I think Eifert's probably got better hands. Bengals fans probably cringe, but kind of like a Chase Kaufman, like a guy that is almost that hybrid role where he can make the great catches, run like a receiver, catch like a receiver, but has the body of a tight end. So I think he could be replaced there, but you miss a lot with the blocking, and the Bengals are trying to become more of a running team, and I really think with Gresham, if Gresham's gone, you got to do something to fill that position. And that we've seen spot starts from other guys in this roster that have done okay, but no one that's going to fill in with the blocking and the production that Gresham left. And maybe they go tight end in free agency. I'm not sure.
Well, we'll talk about free agency here in a minute. Before we do that, I want to get to a guy who kind of had a breakout year here in 2014. He's listed as a tight end, but played a lot of H-back and a lot of fullback this year for the Bengals, and that's Ryan Hewitt. We saw that he had a pretty good ability to block this year, Mickey, in front of the running back. But, from a blocking standpoint at tight end, could he be another guy that replaces Gresham? Are you confident with him? And when you factor in his numbers, he averaged almost double the amount of yards per catch than Gresham did here in 2014.
Sure, and that's a tough stat to go by, because a guy like that, when he gets a catch, that's not something that the defense is expecting. So he's gonna catch a ball on a busted play or catch someone off guard, where obviously Gresham's a focal point of the defense. I don't know. The Bengals need a fullback, especially if they're going running game, focus on the offense. Is Hewitt that guy? I'm not sure. He impressed at times. You could tell there's things he still need to learn. But I'd love. He's a 255-pound guy. Probably tall for a fullback. But if he can make those blocks in the running game, then I think I like him there. Blocking from the backfield like a fullback is much different than blocking, from the line like a tight end. So I don't know if he could make the transition. I don't know if he can fill that role, but he's definitely a guy that, possibly he's got the tight end body, and if he understands blocking, then maybe he could fill that part of the game.
Yeah, he's basically the same size as Gresham, 6'4", 254. Gresh is 6'5", 260. So he's got an inch on him, and he's about 5 pounds heavier, Gresham is. So with a good offseason, Scott, who knows? Maybe Hewitt could put some pounds on and get stronger and become a better blocker as well.
Yeah, maybe, and I would have liked to seen Hewitt used in the passing game a bit more than he was. I thought they would use him a bit more than they did, actually. I liked what I saw when he did get used in the passing game, but the Bengals seemed to like him at fullback, and quite frankly, I think he did a pretty good job back there. So, I think the Bengals are going to keep him in that role, and it gives the Bengals that versatile player that they like in that, if they keep 3 tight ends plus Hewitt, they almost have a swing guy, a fourth tight end there. So I think they're going to keep Hewitt in the fullback position and look elsewhere to fill out the tight end position. I think they'll look in free agency, and I also wouldn't be surprised if they draft someone later down, 4th round or beyond.
Let's look at some of the guys in free agency. I know there's been a lot of names mentioned here in our chat room, and one in particular, Jordan Cameron from Cleveland, who has mentioned that I don't know if he's not happy with the way things went in Cleveland. Can you blame him? And Mickey, you've been really good about posting all the negative stuff that's been happening in Cleveland lately on our website at CincyJungle.com. So a guy like Cameron, who showed some flashes there with Hoyer as his quarterback, would you mind seeing him maybe in Bengal stripes?
I mean, absolutely. But I think that the free agency price for guys like him and Thomas out of Denver is going to be high. So I don't expect to see it happen. And to talk about the posting the mess from Cleveland, I mean, I'm going to pat myself on the back. When everyone thought Cleveland was having such an awesome offseason last offseason, I just kept telling everyone it's Cleveland, guys. Like, that is a mess, and it's going to continue to be a mess. And they don't have the mental makeup in that front office or any of that to get out of that. So I just like watching the show, and I enjoy that we get to play them twice a year. Although it seems like we always split with them, but I don't see them going for Cameron. I don't think that the Bengals aren't going to pay that kind of money. But if something freaky happened and the price was right, absolutely. I think Cameron and Eifert would be a pretty dynamic duo to try to guard against.
How great would it be if the Bengals went out and spent more money on a guy like Cameron and let Gresham walk where he signs a lesser deal elsewhere? That would be the ultimate slap.
As long as Gresham doesn't go and put it all together for another team and become this freak that his body type he could be. You know what I mean? That's what makes me nervous.
Yeah, but I mean, we've seen enough in 5 seasons. Do you think that? I mean, I think honestly, we've seen what Jermaine Gresham is.
Maybe.
And two, you're right. I mean, he could go somewhere where there's an offensive coordinator that actually uses his strengths and his abilities rather than just kind of dump off passes and that sort of thing. Scott, I mean, is there a guy out there in free agency that you've got your eye on that you would say, man, I would really like to have him at tight end?
Yeah, there is, and the guy that I look at, I'm gonna try to, tame the Bengals fans' high hopes of a guy like Julius Thomas or Jordan Cameron, and I'll tell you why the Bengals aren't going to go after either one is because they're similar to Tyler Eifert. Now we can sit here and argue Eifert hasn't shown the ability to stay healthy, so you could add a guy like that, but the Bengals need a guy that can block, and that's not going to be Thomas or Cameron. A guy that I take a look at is Charles Clay from Miami. He's a guy that is actually a converted fullback. He's a good blocking tight end, but as you've seen, he can also make a lot of plays out of the backfield. I mean, he was arguably Miami's best receiver the last year. So there's a guy that has been able to contribute in the passing game, but can also fill the role of the blocking tight end, kind of replacing Gresham.
You know what Charles Clay reminds me of, Mickey? And that's a free agent signing that Marvin Lewis made early in his career with Carson Palmer as his quarterback. And that's the one and only Reggie Kelly, former guest here on this podcast. A guy who had some good years in Atlanta, was a good pass catcher as well, but a good blocker as well.
Right. Reggie Kelly is one of my favorite guests we've ever had. That might have been one of my favorite shows, Nick. I know you remember that. And his scene on Hard Knocks, where he was lost for the season, was probably one of the best scenes of that show. But yeah, I mean that is interesting, and I'm glad that Scott brought that up, because that's a guy that would make your team better, by doing the little things, and it's still somewhat of a threat. So I haven't really thought of that, but I mean, I would take that's solid.
Well, I'd like to hear what you think, Bengals fans. Email us insidethejungle@spnt.tv and let me know which tight ends in free agency, or maybe even in the draft, you'd like the Bengals to be taking a look at here in 2015. We keep hearing that they may be active in free agency. We will see. We have about a month before free agency kicks off. Let us know what you think. Again, that email address, insidethejungle@spnt.tv. The scouting combine, if I'm not mistaken, kicking off relatively soon. Is this something you pay attention to, Scott? Because I'll be honest, I don't exactly enjoy watching a bunch of dudes running around in tight Adidas, whatever gear they're wearing. Especially the offensive line.
You mean you did not like Andre Smith's sprints the other year?
No, that was brutal.
I wouldn't say I'll be watching it. I'm always interested in it, kind of from afar. If I got nothing better to do, I'll flip it on for background noise. I'm always interested to see, what the 40-yard times are. I'm interested to see who comes and who actually competes. To me, that actually means something. I don't like a guy that that's worried about hurting his draft status because he goes to the NFL Combine. So I like to see the guys that want to come and compete. So I'm interested just to see, some of the lesser-known prospects and find out, maybe where guys start fitting in. But I'd be lying to you if I said I was going to be paying close attention to the coverage of the Combine.
I watched very briefly a year ago, Mickey, and that was the day the quarterbacks were running their 40s. And I watched Johnny Manziel go out and run the fastest 40 out of all the quarterbacks. And it just goes to show you that 40 times can be a bit misleading, because we've seen guys go out and have really, really bad 40 times, but then ultimately go out in the NFL and have some pretty good careers.
Yeah, I mean, perfect. Didn't have much of a 40. It's interesting to hear like the highlights from the Combine, and maybe if I'm flipping through, I'll watch a couple minutes of it, but I don't care about any particular player or any particular workout. It's fascinating to me that this still happens. I could see it being more beneficial for the guys outside of the major programs to get some exposure, but I mean, a lot of the guys you're looking to see things for end up having their own pro day workouts anyway, with their own timers and their own crap. So I don't know. The Combine's just, I don't know. Like I kind of wonder if it's like, I bet the interviews are important, even though I've heard some outlandish things come from that. But I wonder if it's like an old boys club kind of thing where all the scouts and GMs and stuff like to get together, spend a week in Indy and talk shop or whatever they do. I think it's kind of antiquated, and I don't really care about the workouts. I mean, Andre Smith running a 40 is pretty hilarious, and that gave us some comedy gold for a while, and I like stuff like that, but who cares how high a guy jumps or how many times someone bench presses 225? It's useless, I think.
This is why the Combine is a bit useless, because after running those 40s, Andre Smith vanished from the Combine, and yet still managed to be drafted 6th overall. So, I mean, probably the biggest thing from these Combines is like you said, Mickey, the interviews, and I'm sure a lot of teams get a lot out of that. But, as far as on the field, what you do catching the football, there's game tape, and the tape doesn't lie. And a lot of coaches, they break down tape, and a lot of these draft experts, they break down the tape, and they know what they see. So the Combine, it is what it is. It's all for show, in my opinion, and it's a good marketing selling point for the NFL Network, so they can sell advertising space for about 7 days. But, I mean, I keep hearing talks that they might be having more Combines, some more regional Combines, and then you throw in these pro days, and, man, by the time you get to April 30th, you're going to be suffering draft fatigue, because it's just all we're going to hear about, especially when you talk about Is it going to be Mariota? Is it going to be Jameis Winston? And yet, does it really matter?
Yeah, Nick. I think the Combine's interesting to kind of watch what happens, and inevitably there's going to be someone that quote unquote flies up the draft board, or gets himself on the radar, and every year watch that guy. That's going to be the guy that's drafted high and completely busts in the NFL. I take a look back at a guy like Vernon Golston. He came in. He was an absolute.
Oh, watch out now! You're not going to OSU. Mickey's not going to like that.
Mickey's going to come after me. But yeah, every year there's some guy that physical specimen that just looks incredible in shorts and no shirt and flying around cones. But I'm a big fan of the game tape. That's why I liked Teddy Bridgewater last year. Him dropping in the draft was ridiculous. Teams that fall in love with guys at the Combine, their success is very similar to teams that quote unquote win in free agency. They typically lose in the regular season.
Yeah, you can't really win anything at the Combine. And maybe if you're a small school guy, I get it. But at the same time, like you said, Scott, the tape doesn't lie, and it's. I guess a lot of the people just tune in to see Rich Eisen run a 40. That's pretty much the highlight of the week. Look, it's the draft. We're going to be talking about the draft for the next few months. Believe it or not, we've got a little over 2 months before the day of the draft, so that'll be a good time. We'll be we've got some announcement about that a little bit later on. If you want to get in touch with us tonight, though, we'll open up the phone lines. We'll talk Bengals with you if you're here live in the chat room. 404-946-3397 is the number to call and have your voice heard. Give us your thoughts on Jermaine Gresham and recapping what the tight ends did here in 2014. The franchise tag. A lot of talk over the last couple of weeks about whether or not the Bengals will use that in free agency this year. They've got a couple guys that they could potentially use it on. We've seen them use it on Mike Nugent in the past. So, guys, I'll kick it over to you. Start with you, Scott. Do you see the Bengals using the franchise tag on anybody this year?
No. And I actually have an article that's about to go up on the site just about this point, Nick. Paul Dehner Jr. wrote a great article the other day about this, and he had the cap numbers for every position. And if you take a look, the cap numbers for these positions are huge, and the free agents the Bengals have this year, there's just nobody that is worthwhile to keep for that type of number, Jermaine Gresham included. I think the numbers to keep Gresham would be something like $8.6 million, something around there, and that's ridiculous. So, their best free agent this year might be Clint Bowling. I like Clint Bowling, but I think the tag for a guy like him would be $12 million, and for $12 million, I'm not touching Clint Bowling.
No way. That's way too high for a guy like Bowling. Don't get me wrong. I think Bowling's a solid player, but he's not $12 million worth. That's ridiculous.
Right.
What about you, Mick? Do you think there's anybody that you could potentially see them using it on, or do you think that's not really necessary this offseason?
Maybe. I mentioned in the chat room, maybe in special teams, maybe, but they've done it before, but I don't see it. I just think that the money for a plug-and-play player, like that, there's a lot of options. I don't think they use it this year.
Yeah, I don't think so as well. I think what they'll do, though, they'll come to some sort of agreement with Mike Nugent, who had a pretty good year. If you take away the one kick against the Panthers, that guy had a solid year for the Bengals this year. Yep. And so I'd imagine he'll be back as far as a free agent standpoint. I don't think they'll franchise him, but I think they'll work out some kind of agreement. Again, if you want to get in touch with us tonight, 404-946-3397 is the number to call. Let's go over to the Jungle Line. Area code 513. Hi, who's this?
Greg from Cincinnati. How you guys doing?
Greg, what's up, buddy? How you been?
Nothing much. How you guys been?
Hey, man, it's Wednesday night. We're talking Bengals. We're talking a little draft, free agency. Can it get any better, Greg?
Absolutely not. I treat draft better than I treat Christmas and stuff. This is when time really goes slow for me. I can't wait and stuff. It's like, Christmas, you don't know what you're getting and stuff. But, you guys are talking about the tight ends and stuff and all that. And like I agree with you guys, we need a blocking tight end. I would take Gresham back, but for the right price. But that Clay guy is perfect to have. But my question to you guys is, it's about the draft, actually. It's two parts of it. One, do you think they will draft a tight end within the first 3 rounds if they don't sign a tight end? And my other part is, what type of offensive tackle? I'm looking at offensive tackles. What type of offensive tackle do the Bengals usually look at?
Well, they've shown a propensity in the years past, as far as the tackles go. They look south. They look in the SEC. You know, they got a guy in Whitworth. They've got a guy in Andre Smith who these guys are maulers, and they play in a physical, brutal SEC conference. That's where they look. And it's not just the tackle spot either. I mean, they look at their guard spots as well for guys that just like to maul and just punish people. That's the way I look at it. I'm sure Mickey and Scott both agree with that as well. As far as the tight ends go, and I'll let these guys comment too, I think that if they're going to draft a tight end, it's probably going to be after the 3rd round sometime. Would you agree with that, Mick?
Yeah, I don't know that they're going to reach in one of their first couple rounds for anyone, and I just don't see it happen in the draft. I think if there's a new, even first team option tight end on this roster, it's going to come from free agency. I don't see them doing much in the draft at the tight end position.
And there's too many other needs too. They need help on the D line. They need help at linebacker, and those are all spots that they could really upgrade there in the first 3 rounds. I think you would also agree with that, Scott.
I do think they're going to draft a tight end though. I think rounds 4 through 6, somewhere in there. And here's why: is because I don't think they're going to sign Gresham. They signed Kevin Brock, but I think that's more of an insurance plan. So at this point, all they got, as far as I'm concerned, is Tyler Eifert, and you can't really count on him health-wise. So I believe there's 2 positions, at the tight end position they need to fill. I think they'll do one through free agency. I think that's where they're going to get their blocking tight end, and then I think they'll take a guy, in the maybe 5th or 6th round. And actually, a guy that I like, Nick, you'll like this, is Jeff Heuerman, the tight end for Ohio State, who was used mainly as a blocking tight end in college, but he's got the potential to contribute in the passing game as well. Probably a guy that goes later in the draft, maybe around rounds 4 through 6.
At first, I thought you said Nick, and then you said Ohio State, and then I knew you were talking about Mickey. Appreciate the call, Greg. Area code 281. Hi, who's this?
Hey, this is Andy in Houston.
Hey, what's up, Andy? How you doing, man?
Hey, pretty good. So my first question is, when was the last time the Bengals actually developed a tight end? Because I think that Jonathan Hayes really flies under the radar and doesn't get enough criticism. Maybe it's because his brother is a good coach. Maybe it's because he's Marvin's childhood friend or whatever. But I just don't think we do a good job, whether we draft him high, free agent, whatever.
Wow, that's a tough one. Are you talking about just specifically in the Marvin Lewis era, or just the Bengals as a whole?
Mainly the Marvin Lewis era with, under the Hayes brothers. Yeah,
I mean, if you look at their draft history, it hasn't been great. I mean, Gresham's probably been the best. They know they missed on Kaufman. I think there was a guy, remember Sean Brewer? He was another guy they drafted that never really amounted to much. I believe he was a 3rd-round pick, if I'm not mistaken, out of Arizona State. And you look at a guy like Eifert, and we don't know what we have yet in Eifert. He's only played the 1 season. When he did play, he had about 450 yards of receiving, very similar to what Gresham had that year. So the jury's still out on Tyler Eifert, if you ask me. But at the same time, I think that the Bengals have struggled. You're absolutely right that they for whatever reason, they cannot get these tight ends that they've drafted to really become studs in the NFL.
Sure. And then one other quasi tight end comment that I wanted to bring up is I would love to see us bring back Eric Winston, even if we just use him in some heavy sets with an extra lineman or possibly as a 3rd tight end. He actually was recruited to Miami to play tight end, then he bulked up to play tackle.
Yeah, I think the Bengals are interested. I know Eric Winston's also commented recently that he's interested in coming back to Cincinnati as well. We'll have to see what happens. Appreciate the call, Andy.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Who day?
Good day.
That's Andy down in Texas giving us a ring. Eric Winston, he filled in admirably once Andre Smith went down this year. We know that they signed Marshall Newhouse in the offseason, and Green Bay fans were happy, and yet we certainly found out why here in 2014. We'll talk about the offensive line. We'll do that next week as we continue our position group series and look back at what happened in 2014 with the O-line. We could do the individual line positions, but I think we'll just lump it all into one, and we'll talk about Winston a little more. But you guys think that they'll bring Winston back?
Yeah, I think they will. From a depth standpoint, I mean, he gave him a quality tackle. You saw why he's not a starter, but he filled in much better than Marshall Newhouse did. So, I think they'll bring him in. I think obviously they're gonna draft probably within the first 3 rounds at least one offensive lineman. But I think Winston will be brought back as a insurance plan at the tackle position.
Man, we're running out of spots. That first 3 rounds, they need help all kinds of places. And I don't know. I think they go defense the first 3 rounds this year, Mickey. How about you?
Yeah, I think so. First 3, maybe not all 3 positions, but I think defense is going to be a priority. But on Winston, I think that he'll be in camp, and based on what happens from now until that time, we'll decide whether he's on the team or not.
Yeah, probably one of those minimum salary kind of deals will get you in camp. And if he has a good preseason and he's one of those final cut guys, at least he's got some tape that he could send out to some of the other teams as well.
Yeah.
And Marvin's pretty good about that with the vets. So look to him. I wouldn't be surprised to see him at training camp this summer. Well, as we mentioned earlier in the program, we do have a big announcement regarding Inside the Jungle. As you know, every year we do a live draft show. I believe we've done, I think if I'm not mistaken, every year has been a live draft show, whether it was on the night of the draft or we did it a couple days before the draft. I think the first year in 2011 we did a live show, but it wasn't the night of the draft. But we had some fun with that. We did an entire 32-round mock draft. Not 32 pick first round mock draft in 2011, and so yeah, the draft show every year has kind of been like, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, the big prize of the off season for this show. It's something that we take a lot of pride in, and we do it up big. Last year it was a 4-hour event, 4-hour broadcast. We pulled in some websites from the SB Nation family to get guys talking about their teams, and so this year. I'll let Scott announce this because he was actually there. He kind of made this happen. Scott, what are we doing for the draft here in 2015?
Nick, you talked about wanting to do some mobile shows, some shows on site, and we tossed around the idea of Lachey's down in OTR and met with their group last week, and they're excited to have us. So we're going to be doing the show live from Lachey's in OTR. Certainly we'll be trying to see if we can get Nick or Drew or both to join us maybe at some point in time during the night if they're in town. Big Bengals fans, the both of them. So it should be exciting. It should be a good time. I went down there last weekend and checked the place out. It's a great sports bar, and really excited to do the show down there and meet some of our listeners as well.
Got to give Scott full props and full credit. He went down, he made it happen, he made the connection with those guys, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really super pumped. I know you are too, Mickey, to actually do the show. We've done the show live, but now we're going to be doing it live in front of people we can see and interact with, and we want Bengals fans from all over, specifically fans of the show, to come out. I know it's going to be a little difficult with it being on a Thursday night, but you can come and watch us. We'll be at Lachey's in Over the Rhine, April 30th. That's the night of the first round, and we'll be there. We'll do the whole first round like we did a year ago. I know you're pumped, Mick.
Yep, I am pumped, and I don't think it's going to be a problem being on Thursday night, Nick, because either you're listening live now or you're listening to this in the next few days. Just go ahead and put it on your calendar. Call your wife, email your boss, do whatever you got to do. Just get there. I owe countless people beers. I don't even know if that's true, but I'm buying beers there. It's going to be a good time. And so I'm going to need all of you listeners to get there. We're going to fill that place. They're going to beg us to come back. That's how awesome it's going to be. So I'm pumped for that.
I'm super pumped.
I promise to have a few rants. I don't even know what I'm going to rant about on the draft. But these guys know my rants are even better live, and so you're all going to want to see that. So it's going to be fun. Nick might take his shirt off. It might happen.
Not
like
at the
bar. It might. All the things we tease might happen. You got to be there to see it. It's going to be wonderful.
No promises about shirt taking off, but it'll be a lot of fun. Come out again that night, April 30th. It's at Lachey's and Over the Rhine. You've got plenty of time to make plans for those of you who are out of town, and I'm going to do my best to try and get Anthony to actually come out to Ohio and join us. It's gonna be stretched for that, but either way, he'll still be with us over the internet if we can't make that happen. But I'm going to try my best to get him to come out to Ohio for that. One guy I really hope will make the trip. It's going to be difficult for him as well. Is the one and only Fatal Content. Fatal, what's up, man? How you been?
Hey, how's it going, man? Everything's been good, man. Been missing you guys, man.
It's been a while. What's up?
Not so much, man. Here about to get some food in the drive-thru. Thought I'd give a Who Dey a shout out really quick.
Where are you at?
KFC.
Oh, that's fantastic. So that might be a first for the show. Maybe we'll have to hear you order live on the air. That'd be crazy. No, I'm just kidding. So your thoughts on the Bengals and the tight ends in 2014? I know you're a big Jermaine Gresham fan.
Jermaine Gresham, yeah. I'm not a big fan. I'm not a hater as well. I'm neutral with him. But to be honest, he was very frustrating. One thing I will say though, his penalties did go down. He was an excellent blocker, and I guess he was consistent being that he's Jermaine Gresham. But I don't know if we're gonna move on from the project. It's still tough to see, but from what I read, the Bengals are more than willing to let him walk without a fight. So maybe we'll be looking to replace him soon.
So do you think he's a goner?
I think we should bring him back, but yeah, I think realistically he's a goner. I think he's out of there. The only way I can feel happy to replace him is if we get my guy from Miami. You know how I feel about that, Clive Walford.
I'm just wondering too, because I've read a lot of stuff around Jermaine Gresham and regarding whether or not the coaches are all that thrilled with him. A lot of that stems from the issue with the Browns game where he was going to play and then all of a sudden he wasn't going to play, and that dust up with Lapham. I'm just wondering how much high maintenance this guy really is, and if the Bengals just feel like it's not worth it for that to happen. And we seem to be having some connection issues with Fatal. Fatal, we'll talk to you next week, man. Appreciate the call. Enjoy that KFC. A little bit about back to the draft. So, again, it's going to be formatted very similar to the way we did a year ago. We're going to be Skyping in a lot of the writers around SB Nation and getting their takes on their picks. But, again, it's going to be awesome for you to show up, be there live April 30th, and come out and support Inside the Jungle and have a beer. I know it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of you that night. Should be a lot of fun. Let's do some shout-outs before we get out of here, shall we?
Shout-outs!
Mickey, how about you? You got a shout-out for this week?
I do. It's a random. It's a guy that follows me, shares my love for a comedian that left before his time, Mitch Hedberg, but he retweeted some Hedberg stuff I did. So Nicholas J, he's at Bertomatic on Twitter, Buckeye fan, Bengals fan. Here's your shout out, man.
Good shout out, Mitch Hedberg, very funny guy. It's a shame. I agree with you 100%. How about you, Scott? You got a shout out for this week?
Yeah, I do. I don't know the guy's Twitter handle. I don't know if he's a listener of the show, but clearly he's a fan of Cincy Jungle. The other week I wrote an article about Mike Brown, defending him on the scathing articles that came out in the Denver Post. And this guy, Jay Gillen, wrote me an email back shared with me an email that he wrote to the Denver Post writers as well about Mike Brown. It was well written, and so appreciate him on the website. Like I said, not sure if he listens or not, but if he does, Jay, thanks for reading the website and thanks for tuning in.
My shout out this week is going to be a little sappy, I guess you can say. Last week we didn't do the show. Part of the reason is because my son had a soccer game that night, and the previous 2 Wednesdays he had a game I missed because I was doing this show, and I felt like, you know what, I got to go watch him play, and I'm glad I did. He went out, he scored 3 goals, and his team came back. They overcame a 3-goal deficit with 3 minutes left in the game. Kudos to him. He scored 3 goals, man. He's 6. Pretty pumped for him. I'm really proud of him and the way he's been playing lately. So my shout out goes to my son, Ben.
Nice game, Ben. Nice hat trick.
Yeah, well done. Really proud of him. And he's always wanting to watch this show on his laptop that's about 5 years old, so we can never get it to work because it's old and slow, like his dad.
Nick's looking sharp tonight.
I did get a haircut. It's long overdue, and my wife is very happy about that as well. Final thoughts as we wrap up episode 184. Mickey Metzer.
I can't think really about anything except for the event Scott set up for us. That's going to be awesome. Get the 4 of us sitting around. That's just going to be trouble. That's going to be the greatest show ever.
It will be. It will absolutely be awesome. And again, we hope a lot of you to come out to Cincinnati that weekend. Should be a lot of fun. Scott, man, you nailed it. Well done. Kudos to you. Thank you for everything.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, glad to be back after a week off, and like we said with the draft show, Lachey's is an awesome place over the Rhine. If you haven't been downtown recently, the whole over the Rhine area down in Cincinnati is incredible. The way they've revitalized that. Not just Lachey's, there's some great places down there. So, if you're local, after work, come down there, check out some of the new places, and around draft time, work your way over to Lachey's and check us out.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Really pumped. April 30th, 8 o'clock, we'll start the show, which is right around, I believe the draft kicks off at 8 o'clock that night. The first round of the draft kicks off that night. So show up, have some dinner, and then hang out with us the rest of the night, have some beers, and party it up the first round. We'll be live here at CincyJungle.com, and we'll be live on location for the first time ever in the podcast history at Lachey's in Over the Rhine. Big thanks to Scott for setting that up, and big thanks to Lachey's for having us. It's going to be a lot of fun. Can't stress that enough. Pretty pumped about that. Special thanks again to Anthony Cosenza. I know he couldn't make it this week. He had some prior obligations. We missed you this week. Hopefully we'll have you back next week, AC, as we talk about the offensive linemen as we continue our position group series. Again, we want to hear your feedback too. What are your thoughts on Jermaine Gresham and the tight ends in 2014? Email us insidethejungle@spnt.tv. Don't forget, Inside the Jungle is a listener-supported show, and so if you want to contribute and help us out, spnt.tv/Patreon is the web address for that. It will go a long way in helping us with the show. It will go a long way in helping us hopefully get AC back out to the Midwest here in Ohio this spring for the live show. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you want to support our cause, spnt.tv/Patreon. And before we get out of here, I always have to thank my associate producers, Andy Lanham, Larry Rolston, and Mike Vardy. Inside the Jungle, episode 184 is in the can. If you want to check out our other SPNT podcasts, log on to spnt.tv. And as always, check out our awesome Bengals content over at CincyJungle.com. For Mickey, Scott, and AC, I'm Soups. We'll see you next Wednesday night. Hooday, everybody!
Okay.
All right. What's the score, Scott?
They just took the lead 55-53 with 1:03 left.
Wow.
So, yeah, they were getting crushed at halftime.
They clamped down.
Oh, I tell you what, man, Xavier was Xavier couldn't miss a shot in the first half. I think they were.
They hit 8 threes.
They were like 8 of 15 from 3-point land. I mean, and they just nailed another 3. So Xavier's back up. Jesus, man, they can't miss a shot tonight.
So we're gonna fly AC in.
Lord.
I'm gonna try. Yeah, I've got some things I need to purchase for this to make this live show happen. So I'm working on getting some. We talked about it before the show. I got to get a new mixer board, and I wanted to do the headsets so we can have our arms free, so we're not bumping into mics or whatever. But we might have to make that work with mics. I don't know, but yeah, I'm gonna try and get AC out.
Cool.
It's all part of the budget.
Nick, the other idea with the headsets, I don't know if this would work or not, but we could take a look. Checking accounts always have those deals where you open them up, you get $250. If we all were opening a checking account, that might be able to cover our headsets.
What bank is this?
It's usually Chase. I think that I normally get the advertisements from.
That's funny.
But
I just added Apple Pay to my phone. Fifth Third finally got on that.
Oh, I know what I was gonna.
I bet we can run them pretty cheap.
Yeah, if we can run them, that would be nice. Because once I buy them, unless we do other remotes, which would be cool in the future.
That was the one thing I was gonna toss out. If this goes well, it'd be cool if they wanted us to have us down there for like pregame shows.
Yeah, that would be rough.
Nick, you just got to talk to the wife that you got to move back to the 513.
Or we can set up like just have a setup that I can bring.
Yeah, that too. But you're right, I do need to get back to the 513.
I told him that sometime, a week or two out, you and I could swing down there and take a look to see, setup wise, like where we need to get things set up. Nick, how does it work? Do we have like stuff so, we can be heard online, but also like tap into the speaker
that's
system?
part of the other things. I'll have to get speakers that can plug into the audio mixer that can pump out what we're saying and what's being said on the computer.
What type of speakers?
Which is another thing we could rent too, probably. That doesn't have to be anything special, just normal monitor speakers.
Yeah.
As long as I can plug a 1/4-inch jack into them.
Right. Yeah, I think we could do that.
But yeah, I was wondering if we should get like a projector too, in case if Anthony can't make it and he's got to be on the web.
No, he's coming.
I know he's coming. I think it would be so much fun. The 4 of us. Oh my gosh.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think it'll be awesome.
I told my wife Nick Lachey might be there, and she's like, "Well, then I'm going."
That's what my wife said. She's like, "The only way you're going is if he's there."
He was down there on Saturday when I was down there. He was in town for the UC game, so it was like him and some of the old UC players were down there. But they seem to think that if they're in town that they would probably like to join.
I just hope he's not jealous when Nick takes his shirt off.
Good point.
Oh my God, Mickey.
Probably will be. Hey Nick, that was I know I can't remember who it was that sent the email a couple weeks back about like T-shirts or something, and I know we had mentioned like I wonder if we could get some sort of like advertising deal with like Cincy shirts, where they produce shirts for us, but also advertise on the site and get some revenue, some dollars.
I'm not opposed. Yeah, because if they could manage the inventory in the sales part, and we just get like I don't know, some
kickback
sort
on
of commission or whatever. That would be ideal, because I mean, I like selling the shirts. Don't get me wrong, but it is a royal pain.
Oh, I'm sure.
Especially dealing with like the shirts, the orange shirts, like it's a royal pain. So I guess they have to spray something on the shirts before they press it, and then they ship it. It's like, well, all you see is the stain from the spray. I'm like, so they're gonna wash them and send them back. I'm like, that's stupid. Maybe it's because it's an orange shirt. I don't know, but it's not been very fun.
It was just an idea I had.
No, I agree with you. That'd be, and Cincy shirts is huge.
Yeah. So I mean, it would be nice if we could get them advertising on our site, get some money flowing in, and also have them, produce the shirts.
I like that they've got funny shirts too. Like, I think it would be cool to have a funny shirt for us. Like
we had that one I made.
Refresh my memory on what that was. That on Cafe Press?
I don't remember where we put it, but remember it was what was it? A tiger in like a pinstripe jail suit and said, "Run like you stole something."
That might have been before we merged, right?
Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
That is pretty good. Did you guys see the guy who redesigned all the helmets today?
Yeah, I posted it.
I liked ours.
Ours was all right. The Browns was awesome.
That was awesome. The Seahawks one wasn't all that different than the one they have already.
Right, same with Tampa Bay and Oakland. They weren't that different.
But you know what? I actually like Tampa Bay's. I like the red.
Yeah. But it wasn't too terribly different than what they have. The Dolphins was pretty different.
Yeah. But the Browns one, you're right, was a really cool one.
That was cool.
That's about the only cool thing about the Browns.
Yeah.
Shit, what was I gonna say? Oh, Nick, I put together a design for a shirt I had sent Josh and Jason a while back, but hadn't heard anything. So I took like the Bengals font and did a I am the jungle. Like the I know the quote's not originally from The Big Lebowski, but the I am the walrus quote.
Mm-hmm.
So we could like run that on the front and have the Inside the Jungle logo on the back or something.
That'd be cool.
I'm trying to think. So would it say Bengals or? I mean, I'm hesitant just because I hate the NFL right now.
No, we can't say Bengals.
I'm sure we can't say Bengals.
We can't say Who Dey.
Stupid NFL.
Nick, does the place that you do the shirts, do they have like the fitted tees or like that real like soft cotton type tees?
Yeah, it's called Custom Ink, customink.com, and
they got all kinds of shirts.
You can see all kinds of selection from, and you can pick. I mean, you can pick out any kind of shirt you want. Just depends on if they have the color you're looking for too.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm so pumped about this live show, and it's like 2 weeks after I'm in Vegas, so like I've got April. It's gonna be crazy hectic.
Oh shit, Nick, you're gonna win that money for the all that equipment out there.
I don't win. Oh, you mean when I gamble?
Yeah.
That'd be nice. They announced yesterday, there's two conferences, two big podcasting conferences. There's New Media Expo, which I'm going to in April, and there's another one in July. It's the end of July, called Podcast Movement. And last year was the first one. I didn't get to go to it last year. But this year they announced a new podcast award show. It's the Academy of Podcasters Awards. And it's like they're going to have a committee judging the shows now rather than the popularity contest. So
cool.
Maybe we'll have a chance. I don't know. We'll see.
When do we find out about the
The finalists are announced on March 1st, whether or not we made it this year.
Gotcha.
And it'll be announced live at 9 p.m. Eastern on March 1st, which is, I think, is a Sunday night. But yeah, the Academy of Podcaster Awards is hosted by Colt Cabana. Do you guys know who that is?
Mm-mm.
I guess he used to be a pro wrestler in WWE or something, but he's a podcaster now. So, I don't know. I'm not really all that a fan of wrestling, but
Probably pales in comparison to you and your handsomeness, Nick.
that's what I'm here for.
Tell you what, we probably brought in
headshot.
a lot more ladies.
Seriously, we stepped up our
Tonight.
game.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I can't smell them, but I'm sure Nick's wearing some cologne.
Just some deodorant tonight, Mickey. A little Old Spice, high endurance, fresh.
Nice.
Not wearing Sex Panther.
At first, I thought you said not wearing pants, and I was going to say, how did you know?
50% of the time, it works all the time.
Oh man. So yeah, I would love to get back to the Natty. It would be awesome. Just gotta
do it.
JOB part. That's the rough part.
Yep.
Well, I'm happy to say I'm 5 weeks soda free.
Wow.
Great. No diet dues.
How's that treating you?
I'm good now. It took about 10 days for the withdrawal to get out of my system, but I'm good now.
That's good.
Yeah. I thought it would help with some weight, but I haven't lost any weight. My friends all ask me, man, you've probably lost a lot of weight. And I'm like, no, I haven't lost any weight. But I did the math, and I'm saving $1,500 a year by not drinking pop.
That's pretty decent.
Hey, I'll take that.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So
Were you drinking those every day by the case?
I would basically have 8 to 10 a day.
Whoa.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It was pretty rough. Because I would take 6 with me just to work.
And you sleep?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
My body was just so used to it that it didn't even faze me. And then then it got to when I kicked it, I did a cold turkey. I didn't just kind of wean myself off of it. It hit me like a frickin' brick wall. I have never been so miserable in my life.
It's a drug.
It was so painful. Head was hurting it hurt all the time. A lot of people don't realize this too, like caffeine regulates your bowels. So like it messed me up there.
Tell us about that.
It's just a lot of the runs to the toilet, Mick.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that next week instead of the offensive line.
No thanks. Let's talk about your daughter being a coder, Mickey.
How about that?
That was cool.
I don't know if I can be more proud.
I clicked on it. I'm like, man, I want Ben and Allie to do that.
Do it. Code.org. It's a free thing. They do it to get kids like thinking that way.
Yeah.
About stuff.
Code.org.
Yep.
If I mention the word Elsa, I'm sure Allie will perk right up.
Right.
Yeah. That was pretty cool. I saw that. I'm like, oh my god, that was impressive.
And she also figured out how to send it to me as a text message, so I got another one, a different pattern as a text message. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Allie, she does. My wife, she works at a company that makes quilting software, and so they have software that lets you design your quilt patterns.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like Allie, she'll design quilt patterns in that software, and she does a really good job of that too. And she's learned how to save it and then email it to Sarah. Like she's got her own Gmail address now.
Cool.
Kind of crazy. Yeah, the things kids can do at 6.5.
Right.
That and all they want to do is play Minecraft all the damn time.
Mine haven't done that yet.
So they go to somebody's house and they go, "What is this?"
Right.
Oh, I want that.
Although I did get my daughter hooked on the iPhone game Clash of Clans.
Nice. Not Game of War.
No, she did it, and then she took my wife's phone, and she's like, "Daddy, I built my own base," and it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Until they want your phone all the time.
Right.
You have an iPad?
Yeah, we have a couple. Yep.
Play it on there too, I guess.
Yeah.
Mickey, I can't get that link for the alternate helmets to open up. I mean, like the top of it opens, but there's nothing there. I tried it on Internet Explorer and Firefox.
I was looking at it, a couple.
Say what now?
I was trying to look at those alternate helmets, and I was telling him when I click on the link, like the banner at the top of the. Maybe it's something. Maybe I got clear cache and cookies or something, but.
Yeah, I'm looking. I mean, it's getting blown up right now, so maybe it's the site.
Gotcha.
I went to. I was scrolling down Facebook the other day, and I came across the Cincy Jungle post. Instead of Bengals, he had linked to the Reds. So it was something like the Cincinnati Reds are looking to sign Jermaine Gresham or something like. It was something so funny, and the comments that people make when we do that is hilarious. I edited it, but yeah, it's like, oh man, dope.
Yeah, Jason cranks that stuff out and misses it sometime.
Yeah. dyoung.com.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just went to it and it was
down.
Broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I see a blue house.
Died.
That tells me it's getting crushed. It was on Bleacher Report. I think it was.
I got it on Imager, I think.
Yeah, I saw it on Imager too. Huh. Well, gents, I need to go get ready for work, unfortunately.
I put it in the chat room, Scott.
Okay. I'll check it out here.
Oh yeah, that works. That link, the Imager one. I like the Cardinals one's awesome too.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would like the
Browns
Bengals
one.
I think the Bengals one might look better as a black helmet rather than an orange one.
The Browns one's pretty cool.
I like the Bills one too.
I don't like most of them. I like
What?
the
Browns.
like the Titans. I think the Titans one is actually pretty.
You don't like the Browns one, Scott, compared to what they got now?
Oh well, compared to what they got now, I mean.
What about the Chiefs
I mean,
one
it's
with the
alright.
yellow helmet? I like that.
Yeah, it's just different.
The Cowboys isn't different at all, really.
Right.
The Raiders is basically the same.
The Ravens is pretty close to the same. They just made the logos bigger.
Yeah.
The Giants one's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Flag.
Why the flag?
What's that?
Why the flag? I was wondering. For the Giants.
The only thing I can think of is 9/11, but
Right. You would think the Patriots would have the flag.
right.
That Giants doesn't have a flag, does it?
It does on the helmet.
The gray Giants one?
What?
What are you looking at?
It's gray with a blue NY?
Oh, you're looking at the big lead link. Look at the other link.
Oh.
That's why you don't think they look good.
Oh.
That explains that.
Yeah.
I was
they
going
look-
to say, I don't see a flag on there.
He said that I read something. He said that his original version got pulled out before he was happy with all of them, so he redid it. Do you see it in the other link, Scott? It
Yeah.
takes a second for that one to load.
Yeah, these are better.
Yeah,
Uh,
the Browns
you know,
one's
there's-
pretty sweet. There's what?
No, these are I guess these are the same.
Some
the
of the
Giants
same.
ones. Yeah, the Giants
Yeah.
one is different. I see what you're saying. Okay.
I was
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
Scott,
that Browns.
I was like, Scott can't see that flag. What's wrong with him?
It's like that Magic Eye book. You can't see the boat.
Did I not tell you guys I'm blind?
Anything patriotic, Scott can't see.
Oh, man.
The 49ers is kind of cool.
Yeah, I like that one, too. I think they're all really good. There's a couple where I was just like, eh. The Jaguars one isn't much different than what they already have.
I still think there's a couple cool things the Bengals could do with their. I wish the Bengals would change their uniforms again. I don't like the uniforms.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do. I think they need to redo their helmet.
What?
I mean, I like the
helmet.
stripes, but I don't know.
It'd be cool to have like an alternate. I'd love them to see him do a throwback once in a while.
That'd be badass
Just for
if
shits
they
and
did the
gigs.
old helmets for a couple games.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I wish the NFL would allow teams to switch up their uniforms more often than they do. I'd like to see teams be able to,
That Browns one,
put together some different things.
they should do more. Get Nike on it.
I know.
All
Nick,
right.
you got work?
I do. I have to go to work.
All right, man. Go make that $1.
Hey, it was good hanging out. Missed you, man. It's been a while.
Yeah,
And
I'm good next week.
next week should be fun, and really pumped. Thank you again, Scott.
Hey, no problem, man. I'm excited about this. I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I've already told a lot of my friends from Cincinnati, and they're talking about getting some guys down there as well. So
Nah, dude, we'll fit. We
The
will
place
fill
is
that
going to
place.
fill up. It's not that big. It's like most of the places down there. Like it's not huge, and I think that'll be beneficial because it'll definitely. There's no doubt in my mind it'll be filled, and they got a ton of TVs.
Yeah,
And then
the last time I did a Cincy Jungle party,
Yeah,
we filled huge place. I mean, huge.
yeah. Yeah, and they got it's kind of cool. They got like one of those tickers that goes across like the top of the bar.
Yeah.
That like runs all of the like sports scores, sports news. So I don't know if they'll be running. Hopefully they'll be running like
I'd love to get a hold of that.
the picks or like it's cool. It runs like 24/7. So even when they're closed, you can see it.
I'm gonna work my magic and get it. I'm gonna control that for the night.
it'd be cool if we could get the chat room in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll get the chat room up on a big screen.
Yeah. Well, maybe not. We'll see because it's gonna be our chat rooms. They're awesome.
Yeah. I think we're easily gonna fill that place. I think they may be a bit shocked.
I'll bring a couple laptops and we'll take over a couple of the screens. We'll have one with the chat room and one with like the show.
Yeah. That's another thing too. We're gonna have to have a laptop that can handle streaming for 4 hours.
What do you mean?
Like
they gotta be
the laptop I have here.
Yeah.
I can't. This thing will crash after like 20 minutes because it's crap. Right now, I'm streaming using the box you built.
Oh, I'll crush that with a laptop.
So, if we can have a laptop that can stream, we're also going to need a laptop that can receive Skype and phone calls. So, 2 separate computers.
I can handle that.
So,
Nick, you'll appreciate this. I had to get my wife a new computer.
Yeah.
So I got her the 27-inch iMac.
5K?
Yeah.
No.
Guess how much RAMs? Well, we just ordered more RAM, but guess how much RAM she's gonna have?
64.
Nah, but 24. But still.
Wow.
That's stupid.
That is so awesome. I was looking at MacBook Pros tonight. Oh, man. I bet that 5K display is freaking amazing.
It's pretty.
You know
sweet.
what? I did see it. I went to the Apple Store here about 6 weeks ago, and I looked at it and was like, oh my god, that is so cool.
It's cool.
Mickey, what do you do?
For a living?
Yeah. Do you? Are you
I'm
like a coder? Or?
I used to be. Now I manage actually 2 teams of software developers for my company.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So I sit in a lot of meetings.
He loves it.
Nah, that's all right.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go to work.
Cool, man. Have fun.
I kind of want to skip, but I gotta go.
All right, man.
Yeah. Stay on the good side of the boss, so he let you off.
He was really nice and let me off. I was really worried because 2 other people had that night off, and it's the first of the month, which the rule is on the first day of the month, because that's when our busiest night is, because that's when everybody's doing their billing. They don't let 3 people have off, so I talked to him, and he was really cool about it and let me do it. So
Give him a Cincy Jungle T-shirt, man.
all right, I'll
Or
do it. He's a Chiefs fan.
Inside the
So he
Jungle
doesn't care
T-shirt.
about that.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah. So. All right.
All right, man. We'll have fun at work.
I'm gonna stop the broadcast. Chat room. Peace out. We'll see y'all next Wednesday. Hoo day.
Later.